Explore today's must-have trends and innovative styles at Mrs. B's Clearance and Outlet. Shop one-of-a-kind finds in today's must-have trends. Explore wall-to-wall deals, furniture, flooring, mattresses, home accents, seasonal favorites, and more. Discover unique new home decor, pillows, accessories, and more. There's something perfect for your style and budget. There's new inventory every day at up to 80% off suggested retail. Discover the style and savings of Mrs. B's Clearance and Outlet.
When you're ready to pop the question, the last thing you want to do is second-guess the ring. At BlueNile.com, you can design a one-of-a-kind ring with the ease and convenience of shopping online. Choose your diamond and setting. When you find the one, you'll get it delivered right to your door. Go to BlueNile.com and use promo code WELCOME to get $50 off your purchase of $500 or more. That's code WELCOME at BlueNile.com for $50 off your purchase. BlueNile.com, code WELCOME.
Hey parents, Greenlight is here to take one big thing off your to-do list, teaching your kids about money. With a Greenlight debit card and money app of their own, kids and teens learn to earn, save, and invest. You can send money instantly, set flexible controls, and get real-time notifications of your kids' money activity. Set up chores and put allowance on autopilot to reward them for their hard work. Then learn about the world of money together. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.
Welcome to Haunting History, the podcast that reaches back into the past for the events that shocked everyone. Tales of true crime, mystery, and the macabre. And when we're lucky, the stories were true crime, history, and the paranormal me. Now, who doesn't love a good ghost story, right? Welcome back to Haunting History Podcast. I'm your host, Kat. And today we are back with investigator Bob Taft with the Orange County, California Sheriff's Department. And we were talking about the cold cases that the Sheriff's Department has. And a lot of them, well, I wouldn't say a lot of them, but there are quite a few that are John and Jane Does that are considered cold cases now, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
I was noticing last night, I was on the Orange County Sheriff's Department's website, and there's a coroner department where they have a list of all the John Does and then all the Jane Does.
Yeah, correct. The reason they do that is because without a definitive link as a homicide case, they fall under the purview of the coroner's department, and they cover all the cases, the John and Joe cases countywide, not just for the Sheriff's Department.
That list that's on the website, those could be either suicides or accidents. The list that we're talking about today are technically ones that are classified as a homicide.
I think for the most part, I would say yes. I know I work a lot of the John and Jane Doe cases that are not specifically homicide, just to try and see if we can identify them.
And
but just for the Sheriff's Department cases, not for outside agency cases.
And then I had a question. With DNA being as advanced as it is, what warrants taking one of those John and Jane Does that are listed for the coroner's department and just doing a regular DNA run on them and see if they find any matches? Do you only do that if something comes forward that they might be a relative of someone, or do you just generally do it on all of them, or you don't?
Well, it's multifaceted, because for the most part, all of the John and Jane Doe cases have what they call CODIS DNA profiles, which is individualized identifications. However, they're uploaded into the missing person index of CODIS. And normally what will happen is that family members, if they are looking for a loved one, they will upload their individual DNA and run it against the unknown subject DNA database.
So they're not just taking their DNA, just like, say, just one person, and running their DNA to find a genetic match and then notifying the family. It's reversed, right?
Well, it could, a lot of times, because you have to get family members to enter their DNA into the database, and that's all done voluntarily. Or what law enforcement may do is they may suspect it may be this individual, and then they'll go out and collect DNA from a family member and then do basically a familial search. But again, we're talking apples and oranges when we're talking CODIS DNA versus SNPs or genealogy DNA. They're two completely different samples.
Prompts them to actually do the familial match.
You're talking genealogy or CODIS?
Yeah, genealogy.
Because genealogy, there's a cost associated with that. It's not, most of the crime labs do not process DNA for genealogy. You have to go to outside independent labs, and there's costs associated with that. So they don't routinely do that.
Okay. That's what my question was, is like they could basically clear their backlog if they just ran all of them. You know what I mean? Like did it for every single John or Jane Doe that you have, but you don't do it unless you have a reason to do it.
Well, I think the end goal is to do genealogy on all of them. That's that would be the end state. Unfortunately, we're kind of in the beginning stages of it to try and get that accomplished.
You we've never talked about this before, but you have training in genealogy and family trees and genetic genealogy also.
I have a little bit, yes. I'm certainly not an expert in it, but I have worked genealogy cases before, yes.
And then we've talked about it before, like where I've said, okay, I'll do it for you. But there's actual laws and regulations regarding genealogy, like who can do it for a sheriff's department or for an investigation or for a missing person, because it has to have a level of forensic genealogy.
You have to be accredited and have a certain level of expertise. But primarily the thing is to be able to testify in court regarding your results. That's the big thing.
Okay. Because the accreditation for genealogy is kind of crap, just FYI.
It kind of runs the full gambit. I mean, some people can take a single course and say, yes, I'm accredited. And then there actually is an official accreditation forensic genealogy program out there. But my understanding is that training is pretty extensive.
Well, it's just the actual accreditation to become a certified genealogy is so arbitrary. Like you like do research on a particular person or whatever, and then 3 people evaluate whether you are worthy of an accreditation.
Correct.
So to me, it's
yes.
very arbitrary. It's not like when you become a lawyer and you take this very specific test, or a doctor or Indian chief. Like I feel like the accreditation for genealogy needs to be streamlined and done less arbitrary to me, because I've always looked at it. I felt like I've taken genealogy classes. I've been doing genealogy for 25 years. I feel like I'm an expert at it. I feel like I can build trees backwards or forwards or whatever. I know that CC Moore calls it building it forwards. I always call it going back. It feels going backwards to me. But I feel like I had actually started the courses to become accredited. And then I was like, I don't like it. Like, I'm not proud of it. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, I don't like how it's done. I feel like there's a better way to become an accredited genealogist than the format or the idea of how we do it now.
Yeah, I haven't started the process to become certified, but I know that, obviously there's genealogical standards and principles. In order to be accredited, you have to perform to the level of that standard.
Those standards. Which that book, I just got that book again. I feel like I get it every time a new edition of it comes out. I just feel like the decision making, it's not like a test. Like to me, it doesn't feel like a test where it's very clear cut when you become certified in almost anything else. And I always use a lawyer as an example. It's a very clear cut questions and answers, where I feel like the accreditation for genealogy is not like that. It's more like you have to hit all these points as opposed to yes and no on a quiz.
Well, I think, and this is just me speculating, it may come to that level now that genealogy has become very prevalent in law enforcement. They may have some sort of testing standard in order to be accredited, because prior to, there was no legal requirement for accreditation, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So you're saying there's still hope for me to be able to genealogy.
There's always hope.
There's always hope. Okay, so let's get into this. The first one, let me see. I kind of scrolled away from it. And I'm just going to read the date. Right? Okay, so it's a John Doe. The date is 4/14/78. Male, white, 20 to 30 years old. On 4/14/78, a body was found just off Brea Canyon Road, approximately 1/2 mile south of Tonner Canyon. Weird that would be the first one after this whole Carrie thing.
Correct.
This is a somewhat remote area off an oil lease property. The body is that of a male, white, approximately 20 to 30 years old, who suffered gunshot wounds. It is unknown if the subject had been slain at the location. Death occurred 2 to 4 weeks prior to the discovery by an oil field worker. Due to decomposition, identification of the subject is more difficult. So weird. Do you know how far this body was found from where Carrie's body was found?
I don't, but it seems like that particular area is, because at the time, obviously it was a remote location and it was close to the 57 freeway, that it was an easy location to dispose of bodies.
It's kind of like how we talk about Santa Ana Canyon Road too.
Correct. Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so what else do you know about this John Doe?
I don't know anything about that one.
That one is okay. So that was a good one for me to start on.
That's a good one for you to start on.
Okay, so
I haven't worked that one.
Interesting, 1978. See, that was only 2 years before Carrie. The
Correct.
body was found near where Carrie's body was found. So maybe there's a reason why I picked this one first. That's kind of weird. Okay, so that one is if anyone has a missing family member or a missing loved one that was 20 to 30 years old that's been missing since 1978 and clearly might have been mixed in with the wrong people to have died of gunshot wounds. Someone went to the trouble to take his body to another location.
Yes.
So, okay. So the second one it's actually 1978 also, John Doe, 6/27/78, male, race unknown, possibly Mexican or Oriental. Are we allowed to use that word anymore?
I think the correct term is Asian nowadays. But
yeah, I did. That's weird. I don't know that I've seen that word written. I apologize to anybody I was reading, not using the verbiage myself. 25 to 30 years old, 5'7", 145 pounds, long black hair. So clearly this one was found less decomposed than the last one. Subject found fully clothed in an orange grove near Jeffrey and Tribuco Roads in Irvine area. He was found by field workers clothed in a white knit shirt with blue and green horizontal stripes, tan double knit trousers, blue canvas shoes, and light blue socks. Cause of death is penetrating wounds to the neck. What does that mean?
He was stabbed.
Appeared to have been dumped 3 to 7 days prior to discovery.
I don't know that case specifically. If it's the one I'm thinking of, and I can roll back the clock a little bit. Obviously, there were orange groves throughout Orange County at that time.
Particularly that area. That's the Irvine Company property, right?
And I know they had a lot of migrant workers, obviously working the fields, and they would set up, for lack of a better term, almost little shanty towns as they went from one location to the next, harvesting the oranges. And again, I'm not sure if it's this particular case, but I know we've worked a couple cases where that these individuals were robbed of their paychecks at these locations, and the bodies were dumped in the orange groves. Unfortunately, I don't have any specifics on this one. It's not one of the ones we're currently working genealogy on. So unfortunately, I don't have a lot of history on that one.
It sounds like he was dressed nicely, though. He doesn't sound like he was necessarily dressed to be harvesting oranges.
Correct. And again, that's just my assumption. A lot of times they may have lived in the local area, but still worked the orange groves, or, he could have been out totally unrelated to working the migrant worker aspect of it. He could have been out somewhere, out and about, and unfortunately met his demise, and they just dumped the body in the orange groves.
Here's another one. The next one is John Doe, 5/1/1980, male, Negro, 17 to 23 years old, 5'8" to 5'10", 180 pounds. I'm so fascinated how when they find skeletal remains that they know that someone weighed 180 pounds.
Again, not my area of expertise, but the anthropological analysis that these people do is pretty amazing, just based on the condition of the bones, and also the attachment points for the muscles and tendons of the bones. They're able to tell roughly their stature.
Wow.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty amazing that they are able to do that.
Yeah, that's crazy because it says skeletal remains found by oil field workers in Brea Canyon. Now we're back down to near where Tonner Canyon is.
Correct.
Subject was wearing gray cords, brown and white striped shirt, blue suede shoes. Cause of death was a gunshot wound to the head. Time of death estimated within the last 12 months.
Yeah, we just started working on this one. This is one of the ones that we've added to the genealogical query that we are attempting to do genealogy on. Not much is known about this individual. I had been going through the file, and there were a couple names associated with who they thought this individual may be. Unfortunately, there was nothing in the file that led to the resolution of either yes, it was this person, or no, it wasn't this person. I know they have a couple dental x-rays in there as well.
Yeah.
But nothing regarding whether they even did a comparison between the dental records of this individual and who they suspected it may be. So that's one of the angles I'm pursuing as well.
So I'm curious, why do the DNA on this one? Like what is prompting you? Because you might have names, that's why you're doing it?
Correct. Yes. And the other thing is, a lot of times these cases are brought to my attention. I can't specifically recall why this one was brought to my attention, but in going through the file and looking at it, if it looks like it's a good candidate for genealogy, then I will add it to the query. This one was, like I said, it was recently brought to my attention. So that's why we're actually looking at it and focusing on it now. We had talked about trying to do a forensic sketch as well on this individual. Unfortunately, due to the placement of the gunshot wound, we won't be able to do a sketch on this individual.
Where was the gunshot wound?
To the face.
Oh. So it's so strange to me too. That's the same thing of like being able to determine someone's weight. It's the same thing with like the forensic sketches. Like, how do they create a face out of a skeleton? Like, that seems so odd to me. I mean, I know they do it all the time. It just seems so impossible.
Well, I've talked to a couple of people that have done this, and for the most part, my understanding of it is that there's a certain range of thickness to the tissues on the face based on the underlying structures of the skull. So then they will make essentially waypoints, like tissue at this location is about this thick and so forth. So they'll start out with those waypoints, and then they'll just kind of mesh that all together to give a what they believe to be a likeness of it. But again, it's an art. These people have a special skill set that are able to do that.
It's so sad that he was only 17 to 23. I mean, he has a mom, he has a dad. Do you know what I mean? Like, how is someone missing for 42 years that potentially was only 17 years old? Why didn't anyone report him missing? That's
they may have, they may not have. There could be they could have been from out of the area. So
they could be in a database somewhere and they're just not being connected yet.
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, so our next one is John Doe, October 22nd, 1980 again, male adult. Burnt skeletal remains. Oh, we talked about this one, and I kind of want you to, you and I talked about it, so I could have skipped it, but I'm not going to.
Okay.
Male adult burnt skeletal remains found in a brown grocery bag in area of 91 Freeway in Gypsum Canyon Road, Santa Ana Canyon. Now, we're going to where Dorothy Scott was found. Apparently, there's like 3 dumping grounds in Southern California. It's Tonner Canyon, Santa Ana Canyon, and then Irvine, like the Irvine Company property, which is, I'm sorry, Irvine Company, multi-billionaires. But that it seems like a lot of these run those areas. Remains are fragments of skull, hands, arms, and feet. Saw marks were found on some bone fragments. Victims still unidentified. Now you all have a theory of what this is.
Yes, and I can't take credit for this. I know one of the technicians at the coroner's office actually brought this to my attention, but my understanding is that when a body is processed for embalming, that they will, or prepped for a funeral, they will put filler material into the body cavity, so that way when it's in the casket for viewing, that it doesn't look depressed or sunken due to the autopsy. So they were putting a certain material inside the body cavity to fill it up. When that body is cremated, that material melts or hardens or transitions into kind of a harder crystalline type substance, which obviously I was unaware of, but this particular individual had worked at a mortuary and a cremation facility, so they were well aware of that. Well, when we started analyzing these remains, this individual said, "Oh, it looks like these, essentially they look like small rocks. It looks like, hey, looks like the filler material after a body's been cremated." So these could actually be cremains that were simply disposed of on the side of the road, because in further analysis there was evidence of burnt wood and lumber. There was screws.
So would there be screws in a crematorium?
There could be. It all depends on how long it was burned, how.
If they had metal plates
I guess
or
the time
screws.
frame that it had been inside the crematorium. So there's a possibility that a lot of things can remain. So to me, in talking with this individual, it could have been that these remains were of someone that had been cremated in a casket, and then for whatever reason they decided that they don't want to hold on to this individual anymore, so they just put them in a brown paper bag and dumped them on the side of the road.
Oh, so that's so scary. So that's like, it's like when people keep the remains of their loved ones and then ultimately they pass on. And at
Correct.
some point it reaches a person who didn't even know these people.
Yes,
So, I mean, it
absolutely.
could have been something even from way back, like someone who passed away back in the 1920s or even earlier. And it's gotten down to like the third or fourth great grandchildren. They're like, we don't even know who that is anymore.
Correct.
And so they're just like, let's just not bury the urn or whatever. We'll just, dump it on the side of the road. That's sad. That's sad.
Yes.
But that's why I know this is going to sound so shallow and not related to a human being. But when my dog passed away, the love of my life, they had asked if I wanted his cremated remains. And I said no. And it seems so weird to say this, but I didn't want for ultimately like me to take it around with me for 70 years and then it be left to my kids, and what are they going to do with it, like, or
Correct.
their kids, and be like, I didn't even know that dog. Why do we still have Arbuckle's remains on my fireplace? Do you know what I
Yes.
mean? So I know it's not related to a human being, someone discarded so terribly of a human being, but that's
But it
why.
is the same. I mean, it's the same mindset.
Yeah, it's sad. Okay, so well, if anybody knows of anyone who somehow are missing someone's remains, great Uncle John or something, the Orange County Sheriff's Department might have them. The next one. And you know what I did notice? I thought this was really weird when I was looking at the website last night, which again, in several of them, they actually have photographs of the deceased person.
Yes.
Like, I wasn't prepared for that. Like the drawings, I'm okay with, but I was scrolling through, and like the third one, I was like, "Whoa, what? That's an actual photograph of a dead person." I was kind of shocked by that, but the other thing I was really shocked by is there are so many more men John Does than there are Jane Does. What do you think?
Yes, and again, the thing is that not all those individuals suffered an untimely demise. I think there were some that had wound up at medical facilities, or
Yeah.
just nobody ever claimed them, and they don't know who they are. So,
It's just why so many more men than women though?
um,
No theory.
that I don't know. I mean, I guess I can speculate that perhaps men
Tend to take
are
off
more
on their
apt to
own.
live kind of a transient lifestyle than women are, but
Yeah.
that's just me talking out loud. So,
That was my theory too. I was just kind of shocked by it because the list of men is far longer than the list of Jane Does. I thought that was kind of weird. Okay, so this one, I believe this one is a solved case. Oh, not solved, but you've determined who it was. Jane Doe, 8:30, 1987, female, white, 15 to 19, 5'1" to 5'4", slight build, long blonde hair. The victim's skeletal remains were found in the rough hilly area near Gypsum Canyon Road and Santa Ana Canyon Road. Again, we're back at Santa Ana Canyon Road. In Anaheim Hills, the remains were found about 100 feet off the road by a hiker on 8/30, 1987. Teeth in poor condition with numerous cavities, a chip on the upper left front tooth. Possible cause of death is a stab wound. Possible, right? The skeleton was estimated to have been there for 2 weeks to 2 months at the time of discovery. The victim still remains a Jane Doe. That's not true, is it?
that is not true. No,
Okay,
we've
so you
identified
have a
her.
name.
Yes, absolutely. This was probably my first cold case that I worked extensively. And yes, she was identified as Tracy Corrine Hobson, and we identified her through genealogy.
Was it because someone was looking for her or
No, we actually hired a independent company, because I first started working this case probably in late 2016, 2017. So genealogy was in its infancy. And this one was a little unique because when I first started working it, it was right after GSK was arrested.
the Golden State Killer?
Correct. So the genealogy aspect in the public was brand new. So I actually had to receive authorization from our district attorney's office to even conduct genealogy to try and get her identified.
Was that because of how young she was? Is that one of the reasons why, or because you thought it might be associated with the Golden State Killer?
I think what it was is that when I first started doing cold cases, basically we just had a big open room with case files on the wall. So like you've gone through and you've read kind of the case synopsis, I would go through and read the case synopsis and say, hey, would this be a good case to work? And I knew, because I had previously worked on the GSK task force and was familiar with genealogy, that this I felt would be a good genealogy case to pursue.
Determined who she was. You gave her name back.
Correct. We absolutely did.
But this is an unsolved case.
It is still an unsolved case, yes.
And what was her name again?
Tracy Corrine Hobson.
Oh, you did rule. Did you rule out the Golden State Killer in this case?
We did rule
Okay.
out the Golden State Killer on this case.
The next one, another Jane Doe. 5/14, 1989, female, white, adult, 25 to 35, 5'2", 158 pounds, blonde hair. The victim's clothed body was found alongside Pacific Coast Highway, just south of Corona Del Mar, Newport Beach area. Okay, so this is a little off the beaten path for where we normally find bodies.
Correct, yes.
The victim had been severely beaten and strangled. The victim had died within 12 hours of discovery. That's a short amount of time for you.
Yes.
Like it's usually a lot longer. That was only 12 hours. That's crazy.
She was freshly dumped, yes.
Is
And
this a solved case or still a
it
Jane Doe?
is not, but
Okay.
this is one of the cases that my former partner had been working, so I'm somewhat familiar with it. And again, this is one of the ones that we're thinking about doing genealogy on.
I'm just interested in the story just because I mean, I would love to tell a story where we can follow along with the genealogy, because I think, to me, that's a good reason for people to do their DNA and stuff.
Absolutely.
Find out if they're like, to me, this would be, let's ask for permission to do that story. Can we do that?
Sure.
Because I think it would be beneficial for people to hear a story as it starts and then goes through the genealogy process. I think it shows people like how they can participate in helping people get their names back. Do you know? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I want to do this one. Can you ask, pretty please?
Yes.
Do you want me to circle it and send it to you?
No, I know it's the
You know which one we're
89
talking
Corona
about?
Del Mar. Yep.
Okay, let's do one more. I was
Okay.
hoping to come across another Jane Doe, but this is a John Doe. John Doe, male, Hispanic or Asian adult, 25 to 35, 5'1" to 5'4", 110 to 140 pounds. That's a major difference. The victim's decomposed body was found alongside, Santa Ana Canyon Road
Mm-hmm.
near
this is the one that was near Irvine Lake.
Yeah, this one wasn't. Santa Ana Canyon Road doesn't. Santiago. I said it wrong. That's why. Well, Santa Ana Canyon Road doesn't go to Irvine. This is Santiago Canyon Road.
Correct.
The victim's decomposed, clothed body was found alongside of Santiago Canyon Road near Irvine Lake. He had been bludgeoned to death with a large rock at the scene. At the scene.
Yes.
Is this one that you're working on?
Not one that I'm working on. I know I'm familiar with this case because it was, again, one of the first ones where they actually did a reconstruction of the skull to give a likeness of.
Okay, so if you can do that on this one, I mean, he was bludgeoned to death. This is different than the gunshot wound that you were talking about.
Correct.
Yes,
Yes.
this wasn't to the face. This was to the head.
Yeah, correct. And I think this was the estimate is that he's an older male Hispanic.
As opposed to 25 to 35.
I would say probably on the upper end, probably 35 to 45, at least looking at the facial reconstruction that they did.
Okay, so this is in Santiago Canyon Road near Irvine Lake. So they think like he got in a fight or something, like then right there, like
correct,
what happened there. And no more information on this case other than that?
No, we haven't, I haven't delved into that one.
Okay. Well then, sorry, I'm going to do one more then. This one, I believe that this is a solved one.
Okay.
Infant Doe. God, like my stomach literally, like I have a physical reaction to these things. October 18th, 1990, male white newborn on 10/18/80 at 8:45 hours. The body of a newly born infant was found in a metal trash bin behind the commercial buildings on Cabot Road, Mission Viejo. The infant had been wrapped in a white bed sheet and placed in a JCPenney's plastic bag.
Yes, I know this one intimately.
Okay. But you found a name. You got a name.
We did.
How?
Through a fingerprint on the JCPenney bag.
Wow. So this case is technically solved, but it's not. It's solved, like you know who the baby is, but no one's been held accountable yet.
Correct, because it could not be determined beyond a medical certainty whether the child passed as a result of a homicidal act or from natural occurrence.
But isn't there some kind of it's still against the law to throw a body away?
Correct, but we're well beyond the statute of limitations. It's only a misdemeanor.
Wait, hold on. There is a statute of limitations on throwing a baby away?
Disposing of a corpse.
Hold on. There's a statute of limitations on disposing of a corpse?
Yes. It's only a misdemeanor. It's a year.
So like if you didn't have anything to do with someone's death, but you came across a body and you dumped it and then waited how many years?
A year.
And then you're just, that's okay. It's just how is disposing of a corpse only a misdemeanor?
It's up to the legislation, I'm afraid.
I mean, like, what are the loopholes in that? Like, and what instance do you innocently have a corpse?
Yeah, I just know that unlawful disposing of a corpse is a misdemeanor.
I guess I'm just so confused at what.
The only thing that would change that is if they were actually a homicide victim.
So okay. So then those are the parameters. If
Correct.
someone dies of okay, I'm just trying to make this right in my brain. If someone dies of natural causes and you dispose of the body in an illegal fashion, whether it's dumping them on the side of the road or leaving them on the couch, it's only a misdemeanor for the first year, and then after that, you get out of jail free card.
And I think if they take some sort of overt act to dispose of the body, then yes, to assist in the disposal. And the thing about this baby case is that it was originally ruled a homicide. That's why I pursued it the way I did. And then when it was reviewed again by the current medical establishment, they're like, I can't confirm that this was a homicide. It could have actually been a natural death. So that's what threw everything into a frenzy.
Okay, when did they start the new law that where you can drop off a newborn baby at a fire station or?
Oh, that's been around for a long time.
Since before that baby was found?
Yes, absolutely, I think.
Okay, so you still have probably 8 more of these John and Jane Does in your realm, like your office where you have all your cold cases that are still considered cold cases, right?
Correct, yes.
That's a lot. I really, really, really want to go back and do a story on the one that the Corona Del Mar. We'll call her.
I'll have to pull a file on that one.
Do you give names to these John and Jane Does that are different than John and Jane Doe sometimes?
Normally I don't specifically. Sometimes they've been given that name by the internet sleuths that are out there researching the case, like the Tracy Hobson case.
Yeah.
She was known as Anaheim Jane Doe.
Okay, so this would be like Corona Del Mar Jane Doe.
Correct. Could be. Yeah.
That leads me to another question really quick. Like I call you all the time and ask you if I'm just some crazy armchair detective, and you're like, yeah, I don't even have to call you, like you are. Do the investigators on cold cases, and I know you can only speak to yourself, do you guys pay attention to things like Reddit and web sleuths and all that stuff when they're talking about a case? Do you guys?
If it's a case I'm currently working, I will go look. But I normally don't. I don't peruse those pages looking for cases. If that makes sense.
No. But on a case, like on a particular case, do you go like on the Tracy Hobson? Do you go read all the web sleuths and the like Reddits and stuff on that subject and see if there's clues or someone has ideas that you hadn't thought about? Do investigators do that?
I do. I can only speak for myself, but yes, I will go look and then the other thing too is that, a lot of times stuff that's in the internet world may not exactly match what's in the criminal file.
So you can dismiss things really easily sometimes.
Correct. Yes.
I had someone, it's just like some lady emailed me the other day about the Carrie Patterson case and was saying something like, she was describing to me genetic genealogy. And I was like, lady, stop.
Yeah, because we know who she is.
Yeah, like the people, I can see where the internet is full of a lot of baloney. I mean, I get some very useful emails sometimes where people come up with ideas or thoughts that I hadn't thought about, and that's amazing. But then I also get the other ones where they're like just telling me something that like it's something that it's evident, it's very obvious is not, and they're coming up with this theory and they're very, very insistent about it, and I can't always tell them why they're wrong. But I was just curious if you utilize that, because the internet is a strong tool.
It is. Absolutely it is. And it is a team effort. Like I won't dismiss anything until I personally disprove it.
Okay, so speaking of that, before we go, did you listen to the episode on the Wendy Osborne to Carrie Patterson comparison?
I listened to most of it. Unfortunately, wasn't able to listen to the whole thing.
But because you have a job, that is 24/7. Do you agree that this is a plausible avenue?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay. I mean, I know how you feel, but I don't know if our listeners do because you and I talk about it all the time. But it's not far-fetched as far as you're concerned.
It is not, because a lot of the elements of Carrie's case match almost identically to
either
the
Wendy or Kelly.
circumstances regarding these other two young ladies. So
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Will you be reaching out to anybody further in regards to this?
Yes.
I don't know that you can say who, but you'll be talking to other people.
Correct.
Because now
This is basically what we call an investigative lead. Now we have to do our due diligence to either substantiate the lead or disprove it. And at least my opinion at this point is that it's a very substantial lead.
Yay. Okay, so you'll tell me first if it's disputed and we're crazy. You'll tell me first, right?
Well, between you and me, I don't think there's anything that I'll be able to find other than him being in prison at the time that she disappeared to be able to dispute it. And
dismiss it completely at this
correct.
point.
And I think I told you, I told Michelle, I said, I think this is a very substantial lead, and depending on how things pan out, we may have to have a sit down with her and, maybe even her mom and say, hey, do you think that this individual is responsible for Carrie's murder? Yes or no? So,
because they might have their own opinions. I mean, we know that they do have their own opinions, but
correct.
Both of them are highly intelligent women that can look at the whole story. So,
yes.
Well, thank you so much for doing this with me. Please look into Corona Del Mar, girl. I really want to do that story. I think that if, for the sheriff's point of view, having more people do their DNA in the event that they have a distant family member. I mean, no one wants to find out that their beloved uncle is a serial killer, but we have so many cousins and cousins removed and third and fourth and fifth cousins that we've never even heard of before that could lead to answers in some of these cases. And I feel
absolutely, yes,
it would only behoove the sheriff's department if they let us do a story where we can follow it from the cold case that it is through the genealogy and through the discovery of who the person is and maybe resolution. I think it would help them if we did that kind of case. Kane, you're going to say you're going to ask we can do it, if we can do it.
Yes.
I'm just going to text you all the time and ask you if you asked yet. So you might as well text me yes, you're going to ask.
I'll just add it to the list.
Okay, thank you. Thanks so much for doing this with me.
Absolutely.
According to NUMIS, an estimated 4,400 unidentified bodies are found annually. About 1,000 of those remain John and Jane Doe's after a year. If you have a missing loved one or anyone you know has a missing loved one and recognize any of the stories that we've told here today or on the Orange County Sheriff's website, please reach out to Bob Taft at the Orange County Sheriff's Department at 714-647-7055, or you can email coldcase@ocsheriff.gov.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Haunting History Podcast. We love hearing from you, so be sure to like, follow, and comment on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Haunting History Podcast. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to all your favorites.
Visit our website at hauntinghistorypodcast.com for more information on each episode, links to our Patreon page, and all of our social media platforms.
Until next time, I'm Kat.
I'm Haley.
Remember, the living are far scarier than any ghost.
When it comes to teaching kids and teens about money, practice makes perfect. That's where Greenlight comes in. With a debit card and money app of their own, kids learn to earn, save, spend wisely, and invest. Parents send instant money transfers, create custom chores, and automate allowance, while kids track their spending, set savings goals, and practice money skills they can use today and for life. Get 1 month free when you sign up at greenlight.com/podcast.